2 years ago, I smashed into the wall, running my first marathon in 4 hours 29 minutes. 5 marathons later, I was cruising my way to a 3 hour 10-minute finish. Today, I share just how much I improved in 2 years of running. Let's get into it. The journey obviously had to start at Marathon 1, running the New York City Marathon back in 2023. So my first ever marathon finish was in a time of 4 hours 29 minutes. It got to about the 28-kilometer mark during the race where I suddenly hit the wall, finding that in the lead up to the race, I really wasn't carb loading as much as I should have, but also just really didn't hydrate enough. And yeah, as a result, I really learned that lesson in my first one. But with everything in life, there are pros and cons. So let me go through a few of the pros that I had in my experience running New York. Firstly, being able to train for a marathon in just over 6 months was the ability to prove that I could actually run the marathon distance. And 5 marathons later now, that was proved successful. Secondly, starting my marathon and running journey with the New York City Marathon really did change my entire life from that moment, realizing that I was kind of one to really put travel on the back burner. I was very happy just working my 9-to-5 job, but running New York also gave me that excitement in being able to explore the world in a different way that isn't going to all the touristy parts. It was getting to run 42.195 kilometers in a city, and I'm pretty privileged and grateful to say that since running New York, I've also accomplished running 3 of the world majors so far. So with marathon running, it's quite a good way to experience the world. Thirdly, and arguably the reason that I got through my first marathon, was the overwhelming support I had from my squad members, but also all of the support staff as part of the Indigenous Marathon Project, which allowed me to run New York. So very grateful for all of the IMF family. And now to the cons. And obviously, I think I've mentioned this in every New York City related video that I have on my channel, but just not fueling and nailing my nutrition come race day was the biggest con that I had in my New York experience. Secondly, and this is actually a result of ending up in the medical tent after the marathon, was I wasn't able to enjoy the post-marathon atmosphere in New York after the race, after just being completely sick for a majority of the night post-marathon. Lastly, and this is probably just a very small con, but because we arrived on the Wednesday in preparation for a Sunday marathon, really didn't have much time to actually mentally and physically prepare for running in a completely different time zone. So jet lag did affect me quite a bit. To finish off talking about Marathon 1, I feel like the key lesson that I learned as a result of completing the first was that nutrition really is a critical part to both marathon training, but also race day itself. And yeah, that was a lesson that I took very much on into Marathon 2, but also ever since, completing each marathon afterwards. So now we get to Marathon 2, which was the Ballarat Marathon in April of 2024, running a time of 3 hours 43 minutes. Personally, I think the biggest reason I decided to sign up for my second marathon was just how disappointed I was with my first marathon time. So I knew just after how much I trained and how hard I pushed myself when training for my first marathon, I knew I had so much left in the tank that I had to give. So almost immediately signed up for marathon number 2 with a friend, and yeah, got a 45 or so minute PB on it. Biggest pro that I have to start with was I actually nailed my nutrition for this race, and it's probably the only marathon so far that my nutrition strategy has gone to a T. So I had 6 gels that I carried on me, consumed all of those 6 gels, and also had the SIS carbohydrate drink mix available on the course almost every second or third stop along the route. So really couldn't fault the nutrition there for Marathon 2. Secondly, one of the biggest pros was I was actually able to run the entire distance. Obviously hitting the wall at 28 Ks in New York, just managed to crawl over the line in those final 14 kilometers, whereas Ballarat just kept a nice, easy, consistent pace the entire way. And lastly, the first ever marathon training plan that I created for myself led to such a massive PB. So taking into account that I had somewhat of a marathon base established after my first one, like I really took my training into my own hands, and yeah, was really proud of the result. I've only got 2 cons for my second marathon. The first being I definitely ran this second marathon a lot more conservative than I did my first, but also after crossing the finishing line, knew that I had quite a bit left in the tank. So I'm like, okay, I think I can push a little more, and that probably led to why I signed up for my third marathon. And the only other con really was the marathon itself finished on a hill. It was a 2-lap course, but yeah, it was an absolute leg burner on the way up. I think it was a 500-meter incline for that final bit of the race. Luckily enough though, Ballarat Marathon for this year, when they ran it for the second time, had removed the hill from the course. So lucky to any of you who ran Ballarat this year. Key lesson that I took from marathon number 2 was focusing on one aspect of marathon training. For this one, obviously, was the nutrition. Allowed me to trust every other factor. So putting the trust in myself after doing my run coaching accreditation to design my program, to let my routine, my sleep, and everything else all just continue as normal. So it didn't distract me from the core focus on getting the nutrition strategy right. Because I think as runners, we tend to want to change and improve so many different aspects, but I think I'm very much one person. I need to focus on one small change at a time before I can work on, okay, what's the next piece to building this running puzzle that is a sub 3-hour marathon Boston qualifier. Marathon number 3 was the Chicago Marathon in October of 2024 last year. So just over a year now, looking at my calendar on my computer, and I did that in a time of 3 hours, 30 minutes. The goal for Chicago was to run a sub 3:30 marathon. So I think this was the first time that I'd had a time goal kind of in mind, but missed it officially by 51 seconds. So again, really wasn't disappointed with a 13-minute PB from Ballarat. And in terms of the marathon training itself, it was very similar to my second marathon training plan. So really wasn't pushing the needle in too many areas for this one. So now over to the pros. For the first one would be incorporating marathon efforts into my long runs during the training plan. I did find this actually helped me start to get to feel what running at marathon pace would be like come race day 2. So I wasn't suddenly shocked and like, oh my God, this is too fast. I can't keep up with myself. Secondly, I decided to head over to the US, I think a week and a bit earlier. Obviously had some time in Dallas before heading over to Chicago, but I think that really allowed me to adjust to the conditions, and I felt so much more ready come race day when I got to the Chicago Marathon. It was also the first time that I wasn't nervous about running the marathon distance. I mean, I'd done it twice before. I could easily do it a third time, just hopefully a lot faster. Now over to the cons. A big one for me was fading at 36 kilometers and hitting the wall there, and almost getting to a point where I just needed to walk for a little bit at an aid station. I didn't quite walk like for a full 50 meters. I think in reality it was only 10 meters of a break before telling myself like, no, we need to get out there. So that was kind of the one flaw that I had in my entire race experience there. Secondly, and this kind of talks to one of the pros that I mentioned, is I felt like I added a bit too much quality when it came to my long runs over the course of training. I did find I had to really prioritize recovery in the later stages of the training block. So yeah, it was a key lesson that I used going into marathon 4. And yeah, as I touched on, this was my key lesson for this marathon in particular, finding that trying to improve too fast and too quickly actually impacts your results. It's better to keep a majority of the training plan as easy mileage and really only sprinkling enough quality sessions to get the output that we're looking for. So most times it's usually running at a particular pace or to run faster, but yeah, not trying to overdo it. And even for my third marathon, like that was my first full year of running consistently after New York without as much support too. So yeah, still very new into the long distance running space, and again, setting the bar a little too high when I'm still such a newbie. And I even say that after running 5 marathons now. We get to marathon 4 and I've got a smile on my face now because it's like, ooh, these are cool marathons. I've experienced those most recently. The 4th marathon was Tokyo in March of 2025 this year, running that in 3 hours, 12 minutes. So again, improving and getting that sub 3-hour 30 goal that I was aiming for. Yeah, absolutely loved this course, and still to this day is my favorite marathon course that I've run. And well, yeah, that's my first pro for marathon number 4, was just the course and the atmosphere. As someone who's been to Japan 3 or 4 times now, I obviously, at the moment, favorite country that I've ever visited, but also just such a rich experience overall too. a lot quieter than the US marathons. I think the Japanese people have a lot of respect for the runners. They'll cheer at moments along the course too, but I think, yeah, it was just such a unique way to, and I really, out of all marathons, didn't feel so rushed because everything, like, as anyone who's traveled to Japan before, just so organized, but also really do like the way that they approach events like the Tokyo Marathon as an entire community, which is pretty cool to see. Second pro going into this marathon was the fittest that I'd ever felt over the course of this marathon journey, and even more so than going into Marathon 5. For me, the incorporation of tempo runs at, not really marathon pace, I'm going to say threshold pace to be honest, was that opportunity to really build the tank, but also the incorporation of a midweek long run. So starting off around 16 Ks and working up to 22 kilometers in peak week, which is also the reason that I hit over 100 Ks during peak week as well. And yeah, really has now, those two sessions in particular, become pillars in my training going forward. We get to the cons now, and nutrition pops up again. In Tokyo, I only took 4 gels. The other 2 that I had in my running belt stayed in my running belt for the rest of the race. I had sodium tablets taped to my non-caffeinated running gels to take those. But after trying to take my first one and having the salt tablet spill all over me, I also just decided not to take salt tablets. So I feel like that may have been the reason why I hit the wall and couldn't really push home in that final 5 kilometers of the marathon. The second and only con was running probably at the 4 kilometer mark of the race and then having someone run onto a gel and have it squirt me right in the face. And I'm talking like, it took some serious mental refocusing and regathering to get back on track, because I was like, nah, I'm done. Like, all of this gel just over me, like, nah, wasn't it? And the key lesson that I took from Marathon 4 running Tokyo was increasing the mileage, and all of it, when I increased the mileage, was easy, super simple kind of runs. So bumping up my recovery runs on a Monday from 7 to 10 kilometers, what used to be just a 8 kilometer midweek long run to 22 were really the reasons that allowed me to further improve my PB in 3 hours and 12 minutes for Marathon 4. And now, Marathon number 5, which was most recently the Melbourne Marathon in October of 2025, running in a time of 3 hours and 10 minutes. And as I've said in previous videos, the most mentally and physically unprepared I'd ever felt for a marathon, but yeah, just super blown away that I managed to set another 2-minute PB in my time. For me, the biggest pro, and I actually don't know how I'm actually going to replicate this going forward, was being able to keep such a consistent pace over the course of the marathon. But I have to really pay a big shout out to one of the 3 hour, 10-minute paces for the Melbourne Marathon this year. Like, it was a full credit to him for being so consistent, and I wish I could have held on to him from the 38 kilometer mark into the MCG to finish the race. But yeah, just a full credit to being able to have such a focused runner, or such an experienced runner that knows how to nail the pacing to a T. Like, my goodness, it was exceptional masterclass kind of level pacing. Secondly, the biggest pro that I took from completing the Melbourne Marathon was I just ran with my heart. After such a chaotic year, and I'm telling you, like, there's been so much behind the scenes that has gone on, and I'm still surprised that I'm trying to get out weekly videos on this channel. But yeah, it was an opportunity to really just release all of the shit that I'd bottled up for so long, and yeah, just be in my happy place again to run my heart out there. So I'm really glad that I was able to do so. Oh, we had many cons when it came to Marathon 5, but I'll just list 2, and I won't keep you here for an hour listing all the cons. Firstly, was trying to do too much. Here's me trying to be a big hero. I think it was heading into week 4 of marathon training after a little bit of travel, deciding, okay, I'm going to do my 15th run in a row. I actually did a 14th run on the Sunday, thinking, oh, look, I'm all high and mighty after my long run. What? 8 Ks isn't going to hurt. Then suddenly that became 15, and then suddenly that became a stress reaction in my foot. And as a result, that led to, I think, 15 to 18 sessions of cross training. So bike riding, I think I did the rower maybe once or twice, but also deep water running as my key pillar to cross training. Secondly, now this is also like one of the most rewarding parts of my job, but also can be like a big con, and it's definitely a con if you're someone trying to train to improve your marathon times, and that's just traveling so often for work this year. Like I really had to make the most of my time when I wasn't on workshops that went for 7 days across the country to fit all of my training in. But getting into the workshops, like I had 2 shakeout runs that I take my squad on for 30 minutes. Otherwise, it was a 90-hour work week and then just waiting until I got back home to Canberra to start training again. But I kind of like my squad, so yeah, do also have so many pros being able to coach so many people to running their first marathons very soon. Key lesson that I definitely took for Melbourne Marathon is once you establish that running pace, you do actually keep it. And I was super skeptical about deep water running and then getting back into running gradually after the stress reaction, thinking, oh, I've actually lost so much fitness, when in reality I'd kept a truck ton. And yeah, by being able to do a 2-minute PB, it just goes to show, like, yes, life can throw many challenges at you. You can be tired, you can have such a hectic work week, but if you just prioritize those small bits of time to get the training done, to put yourself first, it can all pay dividends. In this section, I wanted to break down the key numbers. Let's start off with marathon progress. So did the first marathon in a time of 4 hours 29 minutes. So that was 6:22 per kilometer, or 10 minutes 15 seconds per mile. Marathon 2 was 3 hours 43 minutes, so an improvement of 46 minutes on my previous time. 5 minutes 17 per kilometer and 8 minutes 31 seconds per mile. Marathon 3 was 3 hours 30 minutes, so another 13-minute improvement there on the previous time. 4 minutes 59 seconds per kilometer and 8 minutes 2 seconds per mile. Marathon 4 was a time of 3 hours 12 minutes, so another improvement of 18 minutes there. 4 minutes 33 seconds per kilometer and 7 minutes 19 seconds per mile. Finally, Marathon 5, a time of 3 hours 10 minutes, so another 2-minute improvement on the previous marathon. 4 minutes 30 seconds per kilometer and 7 minutes 14 seconds per mile. If we look at it from marathons 1 through to 5, the total time I shaved off was 1 hour 19 minutes. From a pace improvement perspective now, that's going from 6 minutes 22 seconds per kilometer to 4 minutes 30, so a whopping 1 minute 52 seconds per kilometer faster from marathons 1 through to 5. 10 minutes 15 seconds per mile to 7 minutes 14 seconds per mile, so a whole 3 minutes 1 second per mile faster from marathon 1 to 5. But also, the total mileage that I completed in each year. In 2023, that was 1,260 kilometers, or 783 miles. In 2024, that was 2,615 kilometers, or 1,625 miles. And lastly, in 2025 so far, I've run 1,987 kilometers, or 1,234 miles. And now, as I do with a lot of these kinds of videos, I'd like to share 3 key takeaways that I took from these past 5 marathons that I've completed now. Firstly is easy mileage has been the key foundation to my marathon success. I'm in a pretty lucky position to say that for every single marathon that I've run so far, I have improved and set a PB each time. But realistically, the only way I've been able to achieve the PB each time is by keeping a majority of my mileage easy. Now, very lucky to have built up to a position where I can run and tolerate about 200 or 300k plus weeks in a row. But yeah, if any more than say 30% of that was quality, I don't think I'd be in this position right now. So just for any of you runners out there looking to improve or wondering like, what's the secret sauce? Like for me, I keep it pretty simple and pretty honest when it comes to making videos on the channel. Like that's been the one key piece for me that's really helped me improve. And yeah, if I could point to one particular session, it's the midweek long run, all done at an easy pace. Second key takeaway that I've learned over this running journey is running is a long-term investment. If you're looking at getting into running, or if you are a runner looking to improve, need to look probably a good 12 months ahead at the end goal here for what you're trying to set out for, because as we all know, running is a long-term game and you don't just see results overnight too. And I think after coaching people to their first marathon when they almost complete it, just being able to see like, yeah, they've improved so much, but it's also as a result of being 6 months into the running journey too. And I can't wait to see what, the following 12 months post New York City Marathon as their first marathon looks. The third takeaway, and this is a bit of an interesting one, and I feel like for me, this is personally speaking now, the marathon distance is kind of the perfect challenge. It's long enough to have to battle with my inner demons, but also not short enough to feel like, oh, that was easy and I've kind of got stuff left in the tank. And I mean, yeah, ultra marathons are the likely progression at this stage in the running journey, potentially to, setting out a crazy goal of running 200 kilometers in however long, or running to point A to point B, X amount of kilometers away. But in reality, for me, I just want to nail the marathon distance, and ultimately it's to get a Boston qualified time. I don't need to set any further goals or put any further pressure on me. I feel like that's one goal that's hard enough to work towards, but also something that I can focus on and not feel like, okay, what's next after achieving a Boston qualifier? So there we have it, friends, how much I've improved after running 5 marathons. Overall, it's been quite an up and down journey, even more so recently having my first real injury that put me out on the sidelines, but overall continue to learn so much about myself, and I hope that sharing the lessons that I've learned about myself can also help you on your running journey. I'm interested. Let me know down in the comments below, what's one key takeaway you've taken from your running journey so far, or even an event you've completed recently. I'd be more than happy to carry on the conversation down there. If you are interested in a very similar video like this, you may enjoy my video on how much I improved in 2 years of running, going from 4 hours 29 minutes to 3 hours 12 minutes in the Tokyo Marathon, and a bit more of a look at the times and statistic breakdowns. Thank you so much for watching. As always, hope all is well over on your side of the screen, and all the best out there with your running. I'm Jack, and I'll see you next time. Catch up.